1992 Dream Team. Just how good were they? This will be my first time checking out this documentary. Let's find out.
It's JAMEENOD and I'm back up in the building, giving y'all hot topics and reactions, and I'm feeling.
1992 Dream Team was led by Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, Charles Barkley, Magic Johnson, some of the greatest players of all time. Now at this time, it is, in my understanding, the rest of the world was not caught up at this time. There weren't a lot of foreign players in the NBA. They were praised as gods, as I was told. But let's find out how good they truly were. Let's go.
Dream seasons, dream matchups, dream opportunities. They do it because so much of sports is about imagining what you want things to be like. If only the setting were just right.
It was one of those times none of us will ever forget.
The characters just right.
I don't know anything about Angola, but Angola's in trouble.
The timing just right.
11 Hall of Famers. I don't think you can ever do that again, at no point in time.
If only it could all be the way you might have dreamed it up yourself.
Oh, you filming?
Yep.
That was the most exhilarating 15 seconds of my life.
People perceived us as being superheroes.
Please, Michael Jordan!
No Isaiah Thomas stuff.
No Isaiah Thomas question.
Cool.
We became a team, and that team just stomped on everybody.
This never happened in sports, nowhere.
Well, I figured eventually there'd be a movie made about the Dream Team.
This group may well be the greatest team ever assembled in the history of team sports.
This is about to be good. And one thing I did find out, this was the first time professional players played in the Olympics. So this is going to be interesting.
God bless you, and God bless America.
20 years can go by pretty fast, and the world isn't going to stop and wait for you to remember what it used to look like. 1992 was a time of change. New faces in America quickly transforming into cultural icons. None more so than the superstars of the NBA.
The Bulls have repeated. Let the party begin.
After the legends of the 80s had lifted the league's profile to new heights, a fresh crop of players had blown the lid off.
Here's Hewitt.
Robinson. Yes!
Their talents and their charisma made them more than just basketball players.
I am not a role model.
They were a new kind of star athlete whose popularity transcended the game.
Like Mike, if I could be like Mike. I'm gonna be like Mike.
Is it the shoes?
No, Mom.
And now the very best of them awaited their brightest showcase, the world's largest athletic stage, the Olympic Games in Barcelona, Spain, even if no one truly realized the impact they would make there.
It's a watershed moment in the history of sports, not just the Olympics, not just basketball. It moved the culture along.
But in 1992, not everyone was ready for them. Not everyone thought pro basketball stars had a place in the Olympics.
This kind of thing had never, ever, ever been done. So there was a lot of, poking the bear, if you will, by people in my profession. Sports journalists and journalists in general were skeptical, angry, because this wasn't the Olympic movement.
The Olympic ideal.
That sounds so strange to me, the new era, I would call myself, because that's all I've ever witnessed was professional basketball players. But at this time, that was so unique. And I think it was looked down upon, from my understanding. So this was the first of its kind. So let's see what they say about this.
You know, because this wasn't the Olympic movement.
The Olympic ideal had always been about amateur competition, which meant the United States had always sent basketball teams made up of college kids. Teams that dominated for decades. In 1972, the Soviet Union was awarded a victory over the U.S. in a controversial gold medal game.
The United States apparently had won the game, but the debate still goes on.
To this day, that American team still hasn't claimed their silver medals. But that result seemed like a fluke when the Americans got the gold in their next 2 Olympic appearances.
The U.S. has its 9th gold medal.
While the U.S. celebrated, though, the rest of the world was catching up. So in 1988, when the Soviets won again, there was no talk of any fluke.
The United States goes home with a semifinal loss to the bigger, more experienced USSR team.
I was embarrassed. I know some of the guys left their medals there in the room. They didn't want to take them home. And here we are, USA on our chest, and we didn't get the job done.
But the amateur ideal had gotten muddled. While NBA players were prohibited from Olympic competition, professionals from other leagues abroad could play.
Wow. That is interesting. So the USA could only send college players at the time, but they were sending their professionals to these Olympics? I was just going to ask that question because that is absolutely crazy. So our college players were winning gold against professional players in other countries. We were ahead for sure. We were ahead of our time.
Professionals from other leagues abroad could play.
If you played in Europe for money, you were an amateur, but if you played in the NBA for money, you were a professional.
Wow.
And so our players weren't eligible.
Those other countries were using pros, playing against 18, 19-year-old kids. That is really unfair.
Changing the hypocrisy, though, was a central goal of a European named Boris Stankovic, the head of FIBA, the World Basketball Federation.
He was very much intent on lifting basketball up to the highest possible level of international sports. And if the whole world knew that the very best players in the world were not participating in the Olympics, that made it a second-class event.
So in 1989, Stankovic issued a resolution to allow pros from all leagues to compete in the Olympics. But back in America, the NBA was lukewarm to the idea.
We wanted to be good partners with FIBA to grow the sport of basketball, but we weren't particularly anxious. We didn't know what it would mean. We didn't know if our players would want to do it. We didn't know what the logistics were, but the vote passed, and NBA players were eligible for the Olympics.
Now the issue wasn't about whether American pros could play, but whether the best players wanted to play.
The one guy that, that we were a little concerned about was probably Michael.
The thought back then was Michael Jordan plays 36 holes of golf 90 days during the summer. What the hell is he going to be doing playing basketball?
I was hoping they would not ask me to participate. And I was trying to figure out a way graciously that I could decline. I'd done the Olympic thing before, and when Rod Thorne called me and asked me, I wasn't gung-ho about it.
My appeal to him was, you're the top player in the world. This is bigger than the NBA Finals, and, we need you. His thing.
It makes sense. If they got that guy, the guy, all the rest of the guys would follow. You just get that one guy right there. Once you get him, everyone else is going to fall right in line. You just got to get that guy.
And, we need you. His thing, well, who else is playing? I mean, are all the good players going to play? I'm not going to play by myself.
So Michael Jordan waited to hear more. And Rod Thorne made his next call.
It was a no-brainer for me. I was in from day one. And I figured if I jumped in first and said I wanted to play, that would get guys to want to participate as well.
I think if Magic wasn't on that team, I don't think it would have been as spectacular as it was. And to finish out our careers, that was important for both of us.
Once you get guys like Magic and Larry committing to the team, then all of a sudden it becomes something very, very special. Representing the USA is already a tremendous honor, but to know that you're going to be on a dream team is a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Magic, Bird, and David Robinson weren't alone in their pride.
They called in the big guns. We're the Navy SEALs that we had to go over there and kick butts and take names.
With those stars and the Utah Jazz tandem of John Stockton and Karl Malone, the dream team was starting to take shape.
It don't matter if you call me last. I got the call.
I didn't feel like that I deserved to be called, but I truly wasn't going to tell them that.
I was like, yeah, I'm in. I didn't even think to say who else was on the team. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. Yes.
Charles Barkley's ability was never in question, but his attitude was.
God want us to win the world championship.
I don't know if I go that far, Charles.
No, I talked to him the other night.
I learned early in Philadelphia. It doesn't matter what I say. So from this day forward, I'm gonna say what the hell I want to say, and some people are gonna like it, and some people are gonna dislike it.
But after a series of incidents on and off the court, the least of the committee's concerns were about what Barkley would say.
I was asked to talk to him. He was so honored that we would even think about asking him. He convinced me that you won't have any problems with me.
Now, with the team nearly complete, Rod Thorne had enough talent secured to go back to where he started.
Representing my country was a big thing, but I think, the biggest motivation for me was now I get to spend time with some of the guys I compete against all the time.
Portland's Clyde Drexler rounded.
Man. So, it started with Magic and Bird, y'all. Magic and Bird had pull steel. That speaks to the greatness of those two players. I thought it was going to be because of Michael. They got Magic and Bird to start this domino effect. And then once they got all the pieces, then Jordan was like, okay, this is good enough talent. So Magic and Bird still had that pull late in their careers, guys. That speaks to the greatness of those two players. That is crazy, man. That just shows you how good those two was. Man, talking about speaking too soon.
Against all the time.
Portland's Clyde Drexler rounded out the list of NBA players, while the final spot on the roster was reserved for an amateur, Duke's Christian Laettner, coming off back-to-back NCAA titles.
There's the pass to Laettner. Puts it up. Yes!
In any other Olympic year, Laettner might have been the team's biggest star. But on this team, he was fine with being the last guy on the bench.
I tell people this all the time, and it may shock them, but my most enjoyable year was my freshman year because they don't expect nothing from you except carry the luggage, do the laundry, and get our donuts. And that's easy. The harder thing is to be the leader.
By May of 1991, 2 months before the Olympics, the team was set. One college kid and 11 future Hall of Famers. The man charged with putting it all together was the unflappable Chuck Daly.
Okay, all set?
I'm set.
Chuck looked the part. He was the guy that looked like he owned the arena, but he would also push the broom.
His hair was beautiful. His suits were immaculate. He wanted to win, but he wanted to look good.
As the head coach of the Detroit Pistons, Daly did both, winning back-to-back championships in 1989 and 90.
The Pistons are winners and still champions.
Y'all know I gotta speak on this. This seems. It looks like a blatant shot at Isaiah Thomas. I mean, you got the head coach of the Detroit Pistons as the coach, but left off their biggest star. That looks so crazy. I'm not going to lie. It does look kind of crazy without Isaiah Thomas on there. I got to keep it real, guys. I understand he did some things. I understand. I mean, he did Larry Bird some type of way. He did Magic Johnson some type of way. He did Michael Jordan some type of way. I mean, it's horrible. Those are three of the biggest stars. But to leave him off of there, it just looks kind of wild. It does look kind of wild. Oh, to get the coach of the Detroit Pistons, like, did you really have to do that? You could have got any coach. I mean, come on, man.
In 1989 and 90.
The Pistons are winners and still champions of the world.
The Pistons were nicknamed the Bad Boys for their aggressive and some said dirty style of play, never more evident than in their memorable playoff battles with Michael Jordan's Bulls.
Michael on the move against Vinnie Johnson to the hoop. He is necktied. Oh. Michael Jordan goes down hard.
Detroit and Chicago had no love for each other.
So when Daly was named the Dream Team coach, many wondered how he'd handle working with the Bulls' biggest star.
I was being asked to wrestle with some demons and some issues.
But the coach was well acquainted with the task of managing personalities.
He coached the bad boys. And if you can coach those, you can coach anybody.
One player Daly wouldn't be coaching in the Olympics, however, was his own star in Detroit, point guard Isaiah Thomas, who controversially had been left off the team's roster.
No matter how much people try to say now, it was no big a deal. It was a big deal.
I talked to Isaiah at the beginning of the year about the aspect he wasn't on the team, and he was not comfortable with it. I'm sure he is very hurt. He's a very deserving player, but he was not selected.
Thomas was well on his way to a Hall of Fame career, but was also seen by many as the biggest cultivator of the bad boys image in Detroit.
And now Isaiah Thomas and Cartwright are swinging.
Isaiah was the general. He was the guy that would yap at his teammates and say, knock them on the ass, do whatever you got to do.
And he's so small compared to the other guys that he's leading this squad, man. It's so funny to watch. He did do some things, guys. He did. I mean, that Bad Boys team was not called the Bad Boys for no reason. I mean, they were... Man, that was a wrestling boxing team that played basketball. But nonetheless, Isaiah Thomas was a great player. I mean, he did some great things. To leave him off that team, that is not a small deal. That is a huge deal.
Yap at his teammates and say, knock them on the ass, do whatever you got to do.
A beautiful backdoor pass from Pippen, and he is walloped. He knew he was going to get hit.
I despised the way that he played the game.
Did you want him on the Dream Team?
No, I did not want him on the team.
Did Michael? Did he want him on the team?
Well, I can't speak for Michael, but I don't think he wanted him on the team.
Now, there has been speculation that your icy relationship with Isaiah Thomas is the reason that he was not selected. Well, what is your reaction to that?
That was one of the stipulations put to me prior to me even committing, that Isaiah wasn't a part of the team. I was getting strong innuendos that it wasn't just, it was coming from higher places that didn't want Isaiah Thomas on the team.
Certainly things are being pointed at me because of our relationship and of course about the way that the end of the game between Detroit and Chicago ended.
We were picking the group just after the Pistons had been eliminated by the Bulls, and it was very bad timing for Isaiah. Everybody had fresh in their mind the picture of Isaiah walking off the court.
Pistons wasting no time in getting out of here. They left the bench, although there's 7 and 9/10 seconds remaining. The Pistons just left.
When the Pistons walked off the court before the final bell, I think it left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths.
All right, no Isaiah Thomas stuff.
No Isaiah Thomas questions.
Cool.
Jordan and the team were done answering questions about Isaiah. But with training camp approach,
they are right about that. That was bad timing. Yeah, horrible timing. They went out in bad boy Pistons. That's what they did. They did things like this. I mean, honestly, I think it helped the NBA. I know people don't want to hear that, but it did bring a form of entertainment because it gave them an identity. And I think a lot of these different teams had an identity. The Celtics had an identity. The Lakers had an identity. And here comes the Pistons with their identity. Everyone had an identity, whether you liked them or you hated them. But it was an identity. And I believe that's what made the NBA so great back then. And if you look at today's NBA, no one really has an identity. Everybody's trying to be the same. Everybody wants to be the Warriors and shoot 300 threes. That's the problem. No one has an identity anymore. And that's what made the NBA so much more fun. And that's what made people want to choose what teams they're going to root for. And people love that hard-nosed type of play by Detroit, being from the area. That's how it was in that area. I'm from Toledo, Ohio. It's hard there. It was hard growing up, man. It's a lot of fighting, a lot of, it's not a good environment. And the Lakers was known as being this magic place, this entertainment place. That's why people loved it. It was magical. And with the Celtics, it was hard-nosed basketball, diving for the ball, win by any means. That was what their identity, led by Larry Bird. But I'm going to stop right here, guys, and I'm going to do part 2. I appreciate every one of you guys who told me to react to this. So far, this is really good. All right.
It's JAMEENOD, and I'm back up in the building, giving y'all hot topics and reactions, and I'm feeling. Comment your suggestions, and I got ya. And be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Oh my, I got another one.